And welcome, Maarten Vorwerk.
Yeah, welcome in my studio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks a lot for having us here in
yeah,
your amazing studio. It's amazing. I mean, you just gave us a tour. It's a separate video on my main channel, but it's really epic, and I can only imagine how cool it is to be every day in here.
it
Is
is.
the
Yeah,
sensation still there that you open the door and it's like, wow, that's
yeah,
my studio?
yeah, yeah.
How long did it actually take to build?
It took the whole process took about 4 months.
Okay.
Um, we were still living in Aruba. We already knew that we were going to live in this house, so I wanted to speed things up. So in Aruba, I was closing everything down, but I
Yeah.
was already starting the design with Misha.
Yes.
So we went back and forth on the design until everything was correct, and then when I okayed the design, he already started building it in his own warehouse, so he could test it over there as well.
Yeah.
So he
So
built the
so
whole
you built the
thing
entire thing there?
exactly. So it's
Okay.
it's the inside of the studio is modular,
Yeah.
so I could take it with me if I want. Um, but the outside is concrete, so that had to be built by construction workers, and
Okay.
it was just right before summer. So it was like a little bit stressed, like everybody's going on vacation. But thankfully, we found a couple of guys who could manage it for us. So they started building here.
Yeah.
They made because we're inside of a pool. They built a frame and they put the concrete blocks around it and a heavy ceiling. So it's completely um, airproof and soundproof.
Yeah. It's really
Yeah,
epic. And I love the Star Wars theme that you gave it.
yeah,
Makes it really like it's 100% like a spaceship for
yeah.
producing electronic music. Speaking of producing, you are producing music, of course, but you're specifically like EDM, electronic dance music is your thing, or you also
Yeah.
produce other music?
All kinds of electronic dance music. Yeah,
Okay, as long as it's electronic, it's your so
yeah,
from I don't know techno, underground, tech house to
yeah,
hardstyle.
yeah. I done hardstyle in
Yeah.
the past, so yeah.
And what's like your favorite style of music? Is there any, or
No, there isn't. The
that's
one that
actually
has energy that grabs my attention.
okay? So
That's yeah,
club geared
yeah,
mostly.
yeah. I can enjoy equally from a good like tech house track,
Yeah.
as in like a new Headhunter song, for instance. I can enjoy that as well.
And how did you like start with music? Like, what was your first contact with music? Did you first play an instrument? Was it directly producing music?
No, I was born and raised in Rotterdam,
Okay.
so I got exposed to like the Dutch hardcore gabber music like at a very young age.
Oh, that's perfect.
Um, so I think when I was around 10 or 11, there were like these illegal radio stations which I could listen to on the radio, and that's where my love for the dance music started.
Okay.
But first, really for the harder styles.
And like making it, what was like
Making
the
it
turning point
was
from listening to starting making it? Because that's like a decision,
yeah.
like a big one.
Well, I always had a huge interest for music, so I was
Yes.
always looking for new music. And I think around 1995, I got my first software to make music, a
Which
program
one?
called Fast Tracker.
Okay. I don't even know
It
about
was
that
in
one.
MS-DOS, so it's like
Oh,
really
okay.
old stuff.
Yes.
And I started fooling around with it. I love making music, so I spent a lot of time making music. Didn't release anything yet,
Yeah.
but I was always practicing and practicing. And at that time, I was also studying to be a facility manager.
Okay.
Um, but while I was studying, I was always making music. So I spent more time making music than studying.
Yes.
So
I know that one.
yeah, in the end, I gave up my study. I went
Yes.
to the school for audio engineers. I followed an education over there.
Okay, so you actually had a proper music production.
It's not so much music production; it's really an audio engineering
Okay, so it's
education,
recording, studio.
physics,
Yes.
math, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It was kind of boring actually, but I
But
thought I wanted to
at
do
least
it.
you had something that
At
is
least it was
close to.
music, you know. I could be.
And your parents were like, okay, he's doing something kind of proper, or
Well, I was kind of nervous to tell my parents because I dropped out of school in the 4th year, in the last year.
oh yeah, so
So
many similarities. Me too. Like last
yeah,
year, I just killed it.
so I was a bit nervous to tell my parents. So when I told them, they were like, "Hey, if that is what makes you happy,
Yeah.
then you have to pursue it. I mean, it's your life, so you have to do what you got to do."
That's perfect. Because I also think if you do something you want to do, you will be better as anyone else in it. And sometimes you have to take these bold decisions to just switch instead of asking yourself what would have happened
Yeah.
if I've done it full time.
Afterwards, yeah, I can draw that
Yes.
same type of conclusion, but back then,
Yeah.
I didn't know shit. So,
Stressed.
Yeah, I was
And
stressed. Yeah.
the first
I
year.
mean, you're doing an education. That doesn't mean that you're making money with music.
No,
so
definitely not.
yeah.
How long did it then take? Like, was it 3 years or 3 years?
It took a while. At first, I did the study. Then I only had to study it. So I was making
Yes.
music, but I didn't know what to do with my music.
Yeah, being finished with the study to making money with it is still
That's
a long
yeah. I
stretch.
mean, there are a lot of people who are doing these type of educations, but finding a spot to work in a studio is difficult.
So,
Plus, I never intended to be like an audio engineer, like an assistant engineer or
okay,
something.
because your studying was probably made to be an assistant in a studio, run
Yeah.
a studio, record in a studio.
Recording. Yeah.
It wasn't at all geared towards electronic music.
No, not yet. So the curriculums over there were still more recording based than nowadays. Nowadays, you can do a lot of production curriculums.
And did you ever end up doing something like that in a big studio, working there after you finished?
No.
So what was the next step after getting your degree?
I got my degree while I was still working as a. I worked in the vegetables.
Okay, that's big in the Netherlands.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it is big in the Netherlands, but yeah, my job was like minimum.
Yeah. So just to
But
pay
I
the
quit
bills.
there. I kind of hit like absolute rock bottom, and then I got this one call that changed my whole career,
Okay.
and it was from the temp agency, and they called me and said, "Hey, we have a job for you. It's just for 1 or 2 days. It's at a record company, and they want you to bring like CDs and vinyls to the stores."
Okay.
So I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. Of course, I want to."
So just delivering it.
just delivering it.
Okay.
But it was just for 1 or 2 days because somebody was sick, so I was just filling in. And then I got there, and like the first thing I said is, "Hey, I want to work here like forever." So they were, no, we're not gonna do that. So I went on my route and I delivered my CDs. I got back in time, and when I got back, they were like, "Hey, we like what you did. We want to contract you for a longer time."
Okay.
So then I had my first, how do you say, my first contact with a record company. So
But still not making music for them
I was
in any
still
way.
not making music. I
It
was
was
still packing orders, but I saw all the new music coming in. I saw what was being sold. I was close to the fire.
Yeah. And you got contacts to maybe the right people.
Yeah. And then like after 1 year or so, they had an empty studio and they said, "Hey, do you guys want to work in the studio after work?" So I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, of course." So we got some equipment and we started working there after hours. So we made long hours. So in the morning I started at 9 and then worked until 5 or 6, got something to eat, then went to the studio, worked until 1 a.m., go to
And
bed.
what
and
kind of music? Recording classic for them, or you just did your own stuff?
It was not a recording studio, it was just a production studio.
Okay.
So I could make my dance music.
Okay.
And, and back then we didn't name the genre yet, but jump style, that kind of
and
genre.
probably with analog gear or like outboard synthesizers?
All analog.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
well, we had a computer,
but probably for
rest,
recording.
all the synthesizers were all analog. Yeah.
So you're basically part of electronic music production since the beginning, since it was still like all equipment outside stuff.
True.
So you know the step before working in the box.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
your way around
And
synthesizers, drum machines.
Yeah, exactly. And for that, my study at SAE, School of Audio and Engineering, came in handy.
Okay.
Because
To understand what the filter does, the envelopes, the LFOs, and
and to troubleshoot, to learn how to troubleshoot.
yeah,
Because
right.
a lot of stuff goes wrong, and then you're like, shit, how am I gonna solve this?
These machines still needed maintenance like crazy.
Exactly, and now you know how to fix it,
Yeah.
and how to run like a mixing console and stuff like that.
And what was then the next step for you? I mean, you had there the space where you could make music, but the next big step was then probably trying to do it full time, just your own music. Like,
yeah, so we started releasing music, or I started releasing music, and 2 years later, 2 of the owners, who were clubheads, you probably know those guys as well, they were big in Germany, they started for themselves, so they left the record company.
Okay.
So the 2 studios which were open needed to be filled. So they asked me if I want to be like a full-time producer in the studio. So it's like, yeah. So that was back in 2005.
Okay, that's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, no.